I'm Robert.
I'm James.
I'm Dawson.
I'm Andrew.
And this is the Adrenaline Factory.
I mean, you didn't really drive into the fence.
You went right under it.
You went right under it.
Like, no, that was good.
We're back at it. We just got started on the door bars. Well, on this side, we did one of the other bars the other day, and I kind of had to do it really slow because it's right next to the VIN sticker. So I started working on this side, and we went ahead and pulled the outer rocker panel off because we didn't weld the mounts on for this door for the lift strut. So we just got this on and welded about halfway around. We're gonna go ahead and do the rest, but I gotta turn the wheel to do that. But ICC, we had the door on and skin, but we didn't have we had the structure on, but not the skin. So then when we got it back, I went ahead and put the skin on it so it looked more complete at IFO. So now we unscrewed that from the panel, and I'm actually making this work because we're gonna actually hit the St. Louis Drift event. And for egress and all that, all the doors and stuff have to open, obviously. So now is the time to do that. Plus we needed the door bars in here for that event. It has just been just the opening for the rocker. Now we're doing this. This bar is gonna go up into here, but I ran out of tubing. And they do not have this size local, so I'm gonna have to order it to do this part. If you wanna look in here, we got this piece cut in around this crotch piece. So if this gets hit and you don't have this bend in here, the tube is gonna try to get shorter and it will tear off at the welds. If you have it bowed out and it gets hit, it has to make this bar longer in order to go through, so it's gonna transfer that energy off and the weight is not gonna be on the welds, which is what you want. All right, so luckily we had a few of these engines laying around. The very first engine that I put in the car was actually a blown up motor. I just used it as a mock-up until I could get the right one. So we went ahead and put it on here first to make sure that it was gonna line up and bolt up, and I was gonna be able to solve any issues with clearance that I had before I actually took the time to put it on the car, and it does. It bolts up perfect. One of the things they said is this is a 7-rib pulley, so I am going to have to run it with one of the ribs not used. That works on a lot of cars, but something I've noticed in drifting, it's like on and off throttle. Sometimes with the tension being the opposite way, it can throw the belt. I don't think I'm going to have that issue on here, but if I do, I'll figure something out later. But I did try to put a 7-rib crank pulley on here from an HR or a VHR motor, but the offsets are just way too far off. It puts it like almost 4 ribs off on this. So the only thing I could really do is they have this custom bracket on the back. I could shim here and change my offset and then just put a different spacer in here to get that right. And I do not have this clearance issue on my car because I used a rear wheel drive VQ water neck here. So I have plenty of room to come up if I need to. But like there's the pulley for the HR, and that's a DE rear wheel drive one. So you can see that it is an extra rib and it's pretty much perfect to this one, but the front wheel drive one is just, I don't know if it'll come off or not. Man, it's a little stupid. So it is like way off. So that one won't work. But so I did try it if you guys had that same thought in mind, but we'll get some video a little bit later and we'll actually have us putting this thing on the car and wiring it up and hopefully get to use everything with it. Shout out to my girlfriend, who is amazing, for getting this for me for my birthday. This is gonna be awesome, getting a chance to actually slide this car with power steering and everything, and she is going to experience that with me on March 2nd. So we'll show you some footage of that too. So also I got Jace working on this wiring here. It's been kind of just wrapped through the car just because we wanted to make sure that everything was working correctly before we routed it under the car. For the drift event, I kind of wanted to get a lot of this stuff cleaned up because it's going to get looked at a lot, and I didn't want any wiring hanging around the hydro or my hands around the steering wheel or any of that stuff. So we went ahead and just bit the bullet. We're going to go ahead and do that stuff now, clean it up, and then that portion will be done. So all of this stuff in here is going to route through this side panel and then underneath the car, underneath the gas tank, along with all the other wires. And my girlfriend bought me a JS alternator, a high amp one. Now I can run all of the power steering pump, the additional water pump, fans, the trans cooler pump, all that stuff that we had to disconnect because my alternator couldn't keep up with that stuff and the essentials that I needed. So it'll be nice to actually be able to drift this thing with power steering. So yep, we're going to be replacing this thing soon. Hopefully everything goes as planned. The only thing that I haven't made up for yet is the belt is going to have to be shorter because it's a overdrive setup, so the pulley is actually smaller, so it'll spin faster. That's one of the ways that they're able to get that higher voltage in there. But that belt, I've had to size it several times because we don't run anything on the engine except for the alternator. Normally you have power steering pump, you know, AC or whatever on there. Ours has only been the alternator. So with the way that the tensioner and all that is set up, it is a very specific size to get as much belt wrap as possible. If you look at that image where that was, it's almost touching the backside of the belt where it loops over. And now with a smaller pulley, I may have to mod that bracket to where the tensioner is closer to the alternator to increase the wrap on it. Now that that pulley is a lot smaller, it may try to slip. So hopefully we don't run into that issue and I'll be able to just buy a belt that's a couple inches shorter and we'll be able to have the tension that it needs in order to not have any issues with it slipping. So we got this piece welded on the inner door bar for the lift strut, and then this little piece right here, we're actually going to drill and tap this. This is for the mirror. So before the mirror, we had to reach in and hold it like it had like a nylock nut, and I absolutely hate having to double wrench things like that. I like everything to come apart like factory. So the exposed bolts here are actually just gonna be threaded into this bracket, and if I ever need to take the mirror off, I can just unthread it. So I may put one nylock nut on the inside after it's installed, just so if vibration loosens it, or if somebody tried to steal them, since they are carbon mirrors, that they wouldn't be able to pull it off because there's a nut on the back. So since no one thinks the front of this looks like the Infernus, we are not finished, obviously. I've had to explain that to a few people. I know that the bodywork looks finished, but it's not. So this line here is actually where we're going to cut it, and this line down here is actually where we need to bring it to, and that's going to bring this height-wise up. And then this little subtle ledge right here, that subtle ledge is going to turn into this ledge here. So we're going to sharpen this point out a little bit more so you see it more noticeable like a body line. And when this comes back here, it'll wrap that corner and become this. And then on these, I might be able to have Jacob overlay this picture that we got from Neil. I've been going back and forth with him. We're thinking about possibly making this like an inch higher on its own too. So we're just gonna basically open the hood a little bit more, move the hood pins up, and then cut the fenders and lean them back. And that'll raise the nose of this. You guys will like what we came up with because it looks like the Infernus, but it looks like a more modernized real version. And we got rid of that useless body line that the bumper has that the rest of the car doesn't. It has like a split body line in it. We got rid of that, but we brought it back in with like the over fender, so it looks real subtle. But then it has the more noticeable vent where there are tilted angles and stuff, so it looks really neat. All right, guys, that's it. Be sure to check us out next week. Honestly, it probably wouldn't be a bad fucking idea to shoot a new fucking intro for Jace and have him on the Infernus.
He's not laughing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna laugh, bro.
You might be able to get us both in the same thing and just say, I'm Robert. I'm Jace. I'm Robert.
I'm Jace.
And I'm Robert.
What's good, fam?